Shove that up there. Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Business Blaze. This episode of Business Blaze is, rather appropriately, brought to you by the good people at Backblaze. Unlike Business Blaze, Backblaze will actually provide you some value in your life. They're an incredible backup solution that starts at like $6 a month for unlimited storage. It's incredible. I use it. I've used it for years. I've used it way before Backblaze ever paid me to say how glorious it is. It's great. You can try it for free, 15 days, backblaze.com/blaze. Link below, more on them in a bit. This one is all about beating the house and a dude called Tommy Glenn Carmichael. Maybe this was a suggestion that someone came up with, maybe I saw this somewhere, whatever. I thought it was a super interesting story. So I said, Danny, write me something beautiful. And Danny said, I shall provide. I mean, he said it. He actually wrote it on a note and slipped underneath the door from the basement. And I will read it. Sam will add some memes. Let's do this. This is entirely empty. I wish I'd filled it up before I started recording today. I never realized until today that there's apparently a certain degree of honor and nobility in being a slot cheat. There is? Who knew? One famous trickster who went by the name of Timothy John Charles was once perfectly happy to put down slot cheat as his occupation when he was applying for a loan. I'm not sure if the loan was ever granted, but you can't imagine him being quite so honest about his true profession if he was a bank robber or a pickpocket. Yeah, I don't know ever what to put on those forms. Like, you know, you go to a country, it's like you're filling out a form for like a visa application. You can't really write YouTuber because, you know, it just, I don't know what to put, so I always just put like advertising. I work in advertising because technically it is advertising, like Backblaze, who pay my bills. So I just say I'm in advertising, it makes everything go much smoother. Except once I applied for a visa to go to China, and I put like, yeah, advertising. And they Googled me.
Ironic.
And they were like, we need to talk to you before we grant this visa. And they made me sign all of these crazy documents saying that I wasn't going to China to film videos. And I wasn't, I was just going there for holiday. It was kind of scary. I have to say, I had to go to their embassy and I had an interview with some consul person. It's like, okay. But the point is that there's a significant difference between cheating at a table game in a casino and cheating at the slot machines. When you're cheating at the poker table, you're effectively swindling everybody else who sat at the table and trying to enjoy a fair game. Yeah, with poker. With blackjack, you're not. You're just swindling the house, right? I don't know how any of this works. I don't gamble. I don't cheat at gambling. It's all just a big waste of money. Unless you can cheat effectively, but then you're probably going to get beaten up in some back alley by some scary dude who works for a casino security. So it's not a good time. With the slot machines, it's just a direct contest between you and the casino. And apparently this makes it far more socially acceptable because those casinos are raking in tons of money anyway, so they're not gonna go crying over a few missing millions. Oh boy, they are. They're definitely gonna beat you up in some back alley. It's gonna happen. I've seen movies. People will be like, Simon, you haven't seen movies. No, I just haven't seen the movies that you think are important. Like Casino. I've never seen Casino. I don't even know what it's about. It's probably about casinos. I suppose slot cheats are a bit like the Robin Hoods of the casino world in that they steal from the rich and no, they just give to themselves. Danny just lets it trail off with a ... and it's like, no, they're keeping it. Actually, I think they just pocket the stolen cash for themselves, so the analogy doesn't really work at all. But they still make a fascinating argument against the popular misconception that the house always wins, because the house will also lose if you're smart enough to come up with the tools of the trade and tip the balance far more heavily in your favor. And Tommy Glenn Carmichael was one of the most notorious engineers of slot cheating. I have to say, this does sound incredibly appealing to me. Like, I love the idea of working out how something works. There was this game, it was a computer game from back in the day, like, I was on, I don't even remember, but it was like a fruit machine, is what we call a slot machine in the UK. And you could simulate spin, so you could put in money and it would spin the little fruit thing, and if you got like 3 cherries or whatever, it would let you move on to that little thing that, jumps up. So it's like £1, £2, £1, £2, £1, £2, and you have to hit it when it goes on to £2, and the higher it gets, the faster it goes, and obviously most of the time it's like rigged so you lose. Except I just practiced it so much that I just win every time, and I was like, if only that this game was real, then I would destroy that slot machine every time. Born in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1950, the only thing I know about Tulsa, Oklahoma is this where Chandler goes in Friends, and it's really boring. The early life of Tommy Glenn Carmichael was remarkably similar to that of Sir Clive Sinclair, in that he took an interest in technology from a very early age and loved taking things apart to see how they worked. But unlike Sir Clive Sinclair, Tommy then went on to a life of juvenile mischief, racked up a few minor drug convictions, and had gone through 3 messy divorces before it even had the the age of 30. Oh my god, dude, don't get married again. Like, you got divorced 3 times before you're 30? Marriage just isn't for you, is it? Again, another Friends reference. This guy's like Ross from Friends. Why are we talking so much about a TV show from the 90s? I don't know. Welcome to Business Blaze. Tommy tried to turn his life around in the 1980s when he opened up a small shop in his hometown of Tulsa, which he named Ace TV Sales and Service. By day, he juggled his time between the repair shop and the community service it earned from his drug offenses. And by night, he earned a bit of money on the side as a pool hustler. By the end of the decade, Tommy was facing hard times again as he struggled to keep up with the biggest stores and that were opening up all over town. He was already on the brink of closing down the shop when he received a visit from a good friend that would change his life forever. Ray Ming had just popped back from Las Vegas, and he had something in the trunk of his car that he wanted to show Tommy. Thankfully, it wasn't a dead body. Yeah, I mean, when my mates go, dude, I got something to show you in the back of the car, I don't immediately jump to, oh, it's a body. I jump to be like, okay, I'm curious, I don't know what it is, but I mean, dead body is down there. But it would have been nice if Ray had brought back something that was going to help Tommy get his life back on track. Maybe a new product that was going to help revitalize the fortunes of Tommy's floundering repair shop, or maybe even something that could become a springboard for a completely fresh and legitimate business venture. Again, when someone's like, come take a look at this thing in the back of my car, I'm not like, oh wow, it's going to be some revolutionary thing that's going to change my career. I don't think it's going to be a dead body. I think it's going to be something boring, like, I bought a new dog, I wanted to show you my new dog, or it's like, oh, I've got to move all this shit to the skip. Will you help me move this stuff? I'm moving out. It's like, okay. Those are things I expect. Things I don't expect, revolutionary business ideas and bodies, Danny. What is going on? But no. Ray Ming opens the trunk of his car to reveal a miniature slot machine and a very rare and remarkably crude cheating tool called the top-bottom joint. The bottom part of the top-bottom joint was a piece of guitar string which you shoved into the left corner of a slot machine so that it went up against the circuit board and sent low-wattage electricity pulsing through the cabinet. The top part was a simple piece of metal curved in the shape of the number 9. You shoved this bit into the coin slot until it completed a circuit powerful enough to hotwire the coin hopper, the part of the machine where all the coins are stored, and trick it into emptying the payload. This is so cool. I love all this stuff. I love this the same way that I love heist movies. It's like people beating the system. And, you know, being criminals. I'm not going to do this in real life. I mean, unless things go really badly. Be like, oh, I guess I just have to do heists now. Well, I've played lots of GTA 5, so I have an understanding of how it works. Although Tommy was fascinated by this new toy, he wasn't a greedy man, and he wasn't prone to making rash decisions. Didn't he get married 3 times before he was 30 and have drug offenses? It sounds like he made some rash decisions, Danny, doesn't it? After getting to grips with how the top-bottom joint worked, he popped over to Las Vegas to have a go with it, have a go at one of the nickel machines. Within a few minutes, it managed to pull over $35 out of the small fry slot. Now that this intense period of research was complete, he pops back home, sold his shop, and went to the Las Vegas Strip to make his fortune. Dude, he's not a man prone to rash decisions. Tommy spent the next 5 years cheating the big league casinos out of their money with the top-bottom joint. I can't believe it lasted 4 years. 5 years. How many years? 5 years. And how many times did he get absolutely beaten the out of? It's quite remarkable how he managed to get away with it for so long, as it would have been very difficult to use this big, cruel tool with any level of discretion. I imagine that he was only able to whip it out when pretty much everybody else in the casino was taking a quick nap. Despite these challenges, he did pretty well out of it. In fact, he raked in millions of dollars. I guess if he makes $35 in like just a whoosh, whoosh, then yeah, you can get up to $1 million pretty fast. Millions! Millions! That's incredible. Also, how do you get, like, the bank's not suspicious? Why do you have so many coins? But as the 1980s progressed, Tommy's new occupation became more and more problematic as the high-end casinos began filling up their halls with new machines and more advanced technology. The new machines implemented pseudo-random number generators, which kind of took the power away from the coin hopper. So you could try hot-wiring the hopper as much as you liked, but it wasn't going to give up the treasures. This forced Tommy into much smaller gambling halls which hadn't got around to updating their slot machines yet. And, in fact, when Tommy got arrested on Independence Day in 1985, it wasn't in a casino at all. It was in a little restaurant west of the Strip that just happened to have a slot machine in the corner. Poor old Tommy was quite happily minding his own business, committing crimes, using the top-bottom joint to screw the restaurant owners out of a few dollars when the police barged in and slammed him against the wall. American police, you're way too extreme. Just be like, sir, I'd like it if you would come with us. Just arrest him. He's not a violent criminal. Why do you have to be so violent? I watched the news. What the fuck? When they searched him and found the cheating tool in his pocket, Tommy lamely claimed that it was a device he made himself to help start his knackered car. It probably would have been a far more effective strategy to try and batter the police around the head with his tool and make a run for it. Yeah, but then he's going to prison. I mean, maybe he's going to prison anyway. It's America. But, I mean, if he assaults a police officer, he's going down for years. The outlook wasn't good for Tommy. He was still on probation for those minor drug offenses 5 years later. And this was obviously taken into account when he was found guilty of slot cheating. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Oh, dude. Although he did get millions of dollars out of it. So, I mean, that's a pretty serious financial crime, however you want to look at it, even though it was like little bits at a time. But it wasn't all that bad. During his spell in prison, Tommy hooked up with a guy called Michael Balsamo, who was serving time for very similar offenses. Prison, the breeding ground for future crimes. Together, they began to hatch up new schemes and devices which would enable them to become the slot machine wizards of Las Vegas. The problem that faced Tommy upon his release in 1990 is that technology had moved on during his incarceration. There was at least, I mean, if you went to prison for 5 years right now, there'd be like iPhone 13. You'd be like, whoa! It's the same. It's got a faster chip. Woo! Got a bigger camera. It's got a shitter battery life. The old mechanical machines on which Tommy had won his fortunes had now pretty much been rendered obsolete by the new, more high-tech machines, which were more reliant on microprocessors and software. In effect, the slots had moved from machines to computer games, and this meant that Tommy was going to need something a bit more advanced than the old top-bottom joint. He worked hard in several different minimum wage jobs until he'd saved enough money to buy a new poker slot machine from Bally and International Game Company, and then he spent about 6 months tinkering with the insides until he hit upon the idea of his new flashy cheat tool, the monkey paw. I'm surprised they sell slot machines like random people, because there's gotta be dudes like this who's just going and taking them apart. Like, the ATM people are probably the same. Like, you can buy one of those ATMs, and you know that those hackers who go to that, there's that amazing video of the guys hacking the cash machines at that DEF CON conference in Las Vegas, and like, that is so cool. I love all this shit, as I've said already. Made from spring steel and guitar wire with a can't get away from that guitar wire, it's super useful apparently. With a wedge tip, this new device slid directly up the payout chute of the machines and tripped the micro switch which emptied the hopper. So it was less about trying to fool the hopper and into making the wrong call, and more about just directly activating the switch which releases all the loot. Sounds pretty smart, to be honest. This worked well for a couple of years, but again the technology moved on and Tommy was again faced with the problem of keeping up to date with new machines. This time he didn't want to spend 6 months fiddling about with the insides of a new machine to try and get to grips with how they worked. So instead, he came up with a new plan to speed up the learning process quite considerably. In 1992, he wandered into the showroom of Bally and International Games Technologies, posing as the owner of a new upcoming casino who was interested in purchasing one of the latest newfangled machines that were going to hit the market. He asked an engineer to open up the machine and explain exactly how it worked. Genius! Love it. The engineer duly obliged and went into so much long-winded detail that Tommy actually started to panic. He was worried that the engineer was deliberately trying to stall him until the law arrived. Nah, engineers just love it. You ask the engineer, like, how did you build this shit? He's gonna spend all day telling you how he built this shit because he built it. And someone asked and someone actually cared. Rather than his boss, he's like, people can't cheat it, right, Jeff? And he's like, yeah, people can't cheat it. Good job, see you tomorrow. But it turns out the engineer was just a helpful kind of guy. By the end of his demonstration, Tommy knew exactly what he needed to do. He went away and designed what has become his most famous invention, the light wand. And I'll tell you about another famous invention. I don't know if Backblaze is an invention, but it's certainly incredible. I back up all of my files with Backblaze right now. My computer is sitting over there. It is churning away, uploading my files. In fact, I just leave it running all the time. It's just, I've got a super fast internet connection, so it's just like sending all those files away. It's great, and look, I make a lot of files. Backblaze is unlimited, which is useful for me because I got like 6 hard disks just sitting out, like external hard disks just filled with stuff, filled with videos, because I make a lot of videos. You guys know that. Welcome to the Blaze. What do I have to say? Okay, so, yeah, you don't have to think about backing stuff up. Remember when you used to be like, oh, burn it to a DVD or a Blu-ray or have an external disk with 2 copies of the same files? No more with Backblaze. It's all securely stored on their servers. Oh, and if you run into any trouble, like you have a hard disk failure or something, and touch some wood, if that happens, hopefully it won't, hopefully, I've never had to use Backblaze, which is great, but if you do, just go over, download all your files, or if you're like, Simon, I don't want to download terabytes of files, that'll take forever. I have not even a broadband internet connection. Well, just say to Backblaze, yo Backblaze, mail me out a hard disk. And they will, with all of your files on it and safely encrypted, so you don't have to worry. Mwah! You guys can get a free trial of this incredible backup solution, and you should, because it supports the show. Get a free trial, just go to backblaze.com/blaze. And also, someone asked whether they could go to backblaze.com/allegedly. Backblaze hit me up on Twitter and now they can. So you can also go to backblaze.com/allegedly. It's the same deal. You get 15 days for free, but I do like the Backblaze just totally happy to go with all my crazy shit. 15 days for free. It's totally great. It's peace of mind. It's unlimited. I think I've said everything I need to say. Just go try Backblaze because it's awesome. And they sponsored this show, which makes them awesome, because look at this crazy mess. Okay, getting on with it. In appearance, it wasn't a million miles away from either the top-bottom joint or the monkey paw. It was a long, wiry thing that you shoved out the payout chute of the machine, but this one came packaged with a camera battery and a miniature light bulb. And the idea was that the light wand would blind the machine's electronic sensors with bright light and make them lose track of how many coins they were dispensing. So the machine wouldn't realize that it had already paid out the correct amount and would just keep spitting out coins in a state of blind confusion. Again, I love it. A big advantage the light wand had over its predecessors was that it was smaller and lighter, so it looked slightly less dodgy when you were shoving it up the inside of a slot machine. Yeah, I don't know how big these things are. I'm sure Sam's put up pictures, but you just imagine this guy like, what is that? It's for starting my broken car. Why is it in the casino? No reason. Shove that up there. And the best bit is that it only cost $2.50 to build, and Tommy was able to develop a new revenue stream by selling the new cheat tool to fellow scoundrels who were willing to pay through the chute for it. But I'm always skeptical about people who sell this stuff. You've invented something that just can make you loads of money. I'd be like, I'm keeping that to myself. Imagine the amount of cool shit there is. I bet there are people who cheat ATMs and they just shut the up about it because they don't want to sell it to anyone. Because it's like, why would you sell it when you could just go get infinite free money? No one would sell it. It's the people who are like, yeah, I'll teach you how to make millions on the stock market. And it's like, so why are you selling me a course for $100, you knob? In the 1990s were generally a pretty good decade for Tommy Glenn Carmichael. He started off making around $10,000 a day from his own use of the light wands, and the collective use of the device is estimated to have cost casinos tens of millions of dollars. Yeah, you bet it has. It was paying him 10 grand a day. Tommy was now living the high life with his own house in Rancho Bel Air. He had where's the Rancho Bel Air? Is that country version of Bel Air? I walled up to a house about 7 or 8. He had a fancy car and took several cruises a year so he could screw over casinos right across the tropical zone. And now he had a few buddies to help him with some of the trickier bits. For example, you can't help wondering why the surveillance cameras were failing to pick up any of Tommy's dubious wand-fiddling activities, but this is largely because Tommy's new gang, including his former prison buddy Michael Balsamo, had all had different roles to play in the operation. In return for a slice of the winnings, some of them would take on the role of blockers and stand in strategic positions which would block any camera views of Tommy, while others would become lookouts and keep an eye out for security guards. By the mid-90s, the operation had become so slick that the gang had reached a point where they were pulling in a fortune every week, and there was barely a casino left in the strip that hadn't been scammed by Tommy and his magic wand. Surely the casinos at some point are like, guys, why are our slot machines making so little money? Normally, they were just absolutely financially destroying people, and now we are getting financially destroyed. It looked as if he had really achieved his dream of becoming the slot machine wizard of Las Vegas. But with an operation like this, you suspect it's only a matter of time before the slot machine cheat gets caught red-handed. And sure enough, one day in 1996 at the Circus Hotel and Casino of Las Vegas, so good they named it twice. Circus, what is that? Tommy's luck appeared to have run out. He was unaware that the casino had recently installed new hidden surveillance cameras which could see right past his team of strategic blockers. As soon as Tommy started fiddling around with his wand, security guards swarmed the scene. Tommy made a dash for it and dropped his light wand on the floor, but the security guards managed to pick up both Tommy and his cheating tool. It looked as if the game was over. But it actually wasn't. We know that because there's several pages left. Although Tommy was charged with possessing, manufacturing, and using a cheating device, the charges were quickly dropped as, quite unbelievably, it was felt there wasn't enough evidence for prosecution and he was released from custody within 24 hours. Yeah, of course there wasn't. Because this was the time he got caught. Every other time before that, it's like, what evidence do they have? Maybe he was cheating before. Now here's what I would have done at this point if I were Tommy Glenn Carmichael. I would have f***ed off to the Bahamas or wherever they can't get me, to be honest. Bearing in mind that I'd already served a 5-year prison sentence and I'd just had a very lucky reprieve from a further longer sentence, and I was still rolling around in the money I'd managed to rake in from the casinos, I think I would have just knocked all this shit on the head. Yeah, you don't even have to go to the Bahamas. You're not a criminal. You could just stay at home and do no more crimes. Maybe I would have opened another TV repair shop or just retired on my winnings to somewhere hot and sunny that is not so big on casinos. But although Tommy did harbor dreams of retirement, he wasn't quite ready to call it a day just yet. Now, very much on the radar of the police and every sensible casino in town, he would be arrested several more times over the next few years and released without charge every time. You can't help wondering if the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department just really didn't like paperwork. But Tommy had a big plan for a brand new device called the tongue. This new tool would quickly load up each machine with thousands of credits and then instantly cash them out. Tommy's new plan was to snatch a few more $1 million with the tongue and then retire a rich man. He must have so many coins. The problem is that the FBI knew just as much about the tongue as Tommy did, thanks to an increasingly long string of informants and wiretap stings. Uh-oh. The FBI finally caught up with Tommy in Atlantic City in 1999, and this time they were positively drowning in evidence. But in 2001, Tommy pled guilty to operating an illegal gambling enterprise and was sentenced to a year in jail with a further 3 years probation. He got off light. Didn't he get 5 years before? And this is way more serious, like he's got millions of dollars. He lost his 2 homes, his flashy car, and he was ordered to stay at casinos upon his release, but the sentence still seems surprisingly lean for a man reported to have swindled at least $5 million from slot machines. Yeah, dude. But was Tommy prepared to turn over a new leaf? You can bet he wasn't. Towards the end of his life, Tommy ran a small pawn shop in his home city of Tulsa and cared for his aging mother. He died in 2019, but in the years leading up to his death, Tommy announced that he wanted to right a wrong. Oh, he did change his ways. This is great. I mean, it's not about the money. I really don't think it's about the money at a certain point with these guys. It's exciting. I get why it's exciting. Like, a new slot machine comes out, and I'm really good at cheating slot machines. I'm gonna wanna cheat that slot machine even if I don't need the money. I feel you just gotta find like an effective way to let that out. Like the guy, Frank Abagnale from Catch Me If You Can, the movie. It was like, yeah, he was really good at conning people, so he went to work for the FBI, where he can help them catch people who are conning people. It's probably not as satisfying or as exciting as conning people, but it's at least like challenging, and it will keep your mind off conning people. Tommy had invented a new device which, for the first time, would work with the casino rather than against it. The Protector was intended to be a new... He did exactly what I was saying! What a legend! The Protector was intended to be a new anti-cheating device installed in every slot machine. It would immediately close down the unit if it detected any light source or tampering or wand waving or general mucking about. Tommy was hoping to hook up with the Nevada Gaming Commission to get the Protector installed as an industry standard. And although it did end up getting installed in casinos on a couple of cruise lines, the industry in general was not particularly interested in Tommy's latest tool. The concern, of course, was that Tommy's anti-cheating device could easily be adapted into a cheating device by a bloke who knew his way around a slot machine. Yeah, it's like, I wonder why they have trust issues. And bearing in mind Tommy's woeful track record, it's maybe not completely unlikely that the Protector was meant to be his final master plan. An opportunity to get his foot inside the mechanics of every slot machine in town and bring down the whole industry from within. Alas, following Tommy's death, we'll never know for sure. His sniffy response to rejection from the Nevada Gaming Commission was, "They cannot stand the thought of me righting a wrong and possibly making a little money off it." Tommy Glenn Carmichael would have probably led a happy and comfortable life if it only cashed in his chips a little earlier in the 1990s. But while Tommy's successors continued to work on new cheat devices, very probably with names like the Turkey Baster and the Spotty Elephant Grabber. Yeah, he does have a way with names, doesn't he? The Tongue and the whatever the other ones were. My advice would be just to skip Las Vegas and head to the grim northeast of England instead. Okay. The machines you'll find there are so ridiculously outdated that you can probably still rake in a few quid by just deploying the classic coin on a string trick. Yeah, but then you have to go to the north. This has been Business Blaze. I have been your boy with the Blaze, also known as Simon. Please do support this show by supporting our fantastic sponsor Backblaze with a 15-day free trial. There is a link below, and thank you for watching. So it's not a good time.